here at Rockwood Estates, and this mansion and the surrounding acres are all part of a county park here in Delaware. Now, when this mansion was built, it characterized style and elegance and grace, and it was built with old school techniques and methods. The same can be said for my 1988 Plymouth Gran Fury. Both this mansion and the Plymouth were built in a style, in a way that just died off a long time ago. This Plymouth is a 3-box design with a V8 engine and rear-wheel drive, and when this car was made, the rest of the Chrysler car lineup, they had moved on. They had moved on to the K-Car platform, which is front-wheel drive, smaller, more efficient 4 and 6-cylinder engines and turbocharging too. In fact, when this car was made in 1988, it only found a little more than 11,400 buyers. And in the following year, the final year of production, less than 5,000 of these cars were made. Chrysler marketing pieces of the day called this car conservative and traditional. It was called classically designed and said to have traditional ride and handling with expected dependability, and that this car is true to its conservative heritage. And because of all of that, I went out and found the perfect piece of memorabilia that goes on the bumper of this car and perfectly mimics and matches everything this car represents. This car was built in Kenosha, Wisconsin, but a short drive from here is the old Chrysler Assembly plant in Newark, Delaware. Let's take the drive over there and take a look, see what remains of the old factory. This thing drives so nice on the highway. It's really just smooth and effortless. It's really at home at highway speeds too, at 60, 70, even 80 miles an hour is no big deal with this car with the 220 rear gear ratio. Chrysler called the ride the big car ride in a 3/4 size package because they were trying to compete with the bigger models from Oldsmobile and Buick and Cadillac and Lincoln too. Now, I've been daily driving this car ever since I got it. I put a total of 476 miles in the car. Now, all my driving is around town. 30, 40, 50 miles an hour, stoplights, stop signs, boulevard driving, some traffic. And I've averaged a total of 12 miles per gallon in that time. Now, to put that in perspective, my Crown Vic Police Interceptor that I drive also, on the same route, the same routine, with 110 more horsepower and 500 more pounds of weight, I get 14.5 miles per gallon. To go one step further, in a more modern car, Chevy Caprice PPV, which has 215 more horsepower than this car, and again 500 more pounds of weight, I get that same 14.5 miles per gallon. About a 15-minute drive south down Interstate I-95 gets me to the Newark exit. Just a mile or two beyond the off-ramp, and I'm at the triangle-shaped property that spans a huge 272 acres. When the factory opened in 1951, its first products weren't cars, but rather tanks. The M48 with its 12-cylinder gasoline engine and 90mm main gun. The Newark plant continued with tank production until it was retooled and switched over to car production in 1957. In fact, I had restored a 1958 Dodge Coronet, which was built at the Newark Assembly plant and was later displayed on the front lawn during an Employee Appreciation Day years ago. Years later, M-body cars were built in Newark from the late 70s to the early 80s, and then they switched over to K-car production with Town & Country models, and then cab-forward models, and then the first and second generation Durangos. But by October 2008, Chrysler announced that due to slow sales, that production of the Durango would end. And on December 19, 2008, the last Durango came off the production line, the flags were lowered from the flagpoles in front of the administrative building, and the factory was shuttered. Shortly after the factory was closed, the property was purchased by its neighbor, the University of Delaware, and nearly everything on the property was demolished. Today, the sprawling campus houses various commercial properties, office buildings, and some manufacturing too. About the only thing that remains today from the Chrysler factory is the water tower, the train depot, and a pile of debris in the back of the property. I'm here in about the middle of the property, and the main entrance is about a half mile that way. The rubble pile and the train depot is about a half mile that way. It's nice to see how the property's been repurposed. There's so much going on, people working, and things are humming along. But it's also kind of sad to see all the history, all the things that made this property so special gone, just disappeared. So look, this is all kind of a downer right now, with so much gone and so much of that history erased. So let's get back in the car and get out of here and get back home. You know, it's sad to see the condition of that factory and all the lives that have been touched by the jobs and the work that have been performed there. But it's also nice to see it progressing and growing, and of course with progress comes the promise of change and improvements too. But it's still nice to go back in time all the way to 1988 when I sit behind the wheel of this Gran Fury. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up, be sure to subscribe, and as always, thanks so much for watching.